Hello everybody, this is Steph J. Millz here, bringing you a little mini series on my guide to Camille. Now I did hint on my stream, if you don't follow me, you can follow me in the description below, twitch.tv/StephJMills. I did hint on my stream that I was going to start a guide, because a lot of people always been asking me about my playstyle with Camille. They ask me like, why do I do certain things? Why do I go certain keystones? Why do I build certain things? Why don't I do this? Why don't I do that and such? So I'm just like, you know what? Why not start a guide where I answer all that for everybody? That way, if they ever have any questions, they can just refer to the guide. So I figured, why not? So in this episode, I believe I might start I might do 3 in total to pretty much discuss a lot of things. I'll just split it up into different episodes. So in this episode, I'll be giving a little background information about myself. I'm going to be giving a little description on Camille as a champion, such as talking about her abilities and talking about her pros and cons. And I'm also going to be discussing my keystones. Now, disclaimer: op.gg accordingly says that I am rank 3 with Camille, and I don't agree with that, because I don't consider myself to be a top Camille player. I'm quite sure there are plenty of other Camille players out there that are much better than me. However, I have my own play style that I've developed with her over my experience with her. So therefore, there's a lot of things that I'm going to discuss, and there's a lot of things I'm going to say that might have you look at me like, what? Why would you do this? Why would you go that and such things? So this is why this is a guide that I personally make myself, and this is for me. This is not really recommended for everybody to try, but this is just a guide to explain how I play Camille. That way, if you needed to learn some more things about her that you probably didn't know before you saw this, now you know, like, oh, okay, this is why he does this, because this happens or this happens. So that makes sense, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta follow along with me if you actually want to learn some more about her. And if you know some things about her that I don't know, or if I don't cover on some things, or I miss out on something, or if I'm incorrect about something, feel free to leave a comment below. And feel free to leave a comment below and let me know. That way I can we can all help each other out in terms of learning any Camille one tricks out there, or Camille mains, or anybody that's learning to play Camille. We all can help each other out, you know what I'm saying? So stick around, and please, I hope I answer all your questions as far as my playstyle. So now, a little bit of information about me. Yes, my name is Steph J. Millz. I am a Camille one trick, as I said, according to op.gg. It says I'm rank 3. Surprisingly, I don't agree with that, but if they believe that I'm rank 3, or I'm like, well, that's pretty impressive for me, because I've never been that high in rank with a champ before. So yeah, I am only 20 years young. I am from Wilmington, Delaware, and I've been playing League for about 8 years of my life. Yes, 8 years of my life. Go figure. Since I was a little young boy. Yes, I've been playing League since that long, and I love League of Legends, despite me feeling like my blood pressure rises because of how this game really can be, and the toxicity in the community and such things. I still love this game. I can never leave it for some reason. Like, as much as I try to take a break from it, I know I think the longest I've taken from League was maybe like 2, 3, maybe 4 months of not playing, after I just felt like, man, I need to take a break from this game, because this game is just, it's too much toxicity. It doesn't feel like I'm making any progress. Doesn't feel like I'm winning anymore, because, man, I'm just losing. And I'm just like, sometimes taking a break does really help out. It does clear your mentality, and it does help you. When you come back to the game, you're refreshed, and you're like, now you can actually get somewhere. You can actually focus now, because you're not surrounded by toxicity no more. You're actually just refreshed now, because it's too much. You might have too many bad memories of you losing and such, but it's like that's all in the past now. So now you're moved on, and now you're on to new beginnings. So yeah. So yes, that's the background information about me. Now, let's see, what else? I've actually been streaming for it's been actually about almost 2 years. However, when I did my I only count my face reveal is when I started. So about a year ago was when I actually really started. Once I did my face reveal, that's when I was really deep into the streaming. So Yes, I've been streaming for a year. It's been a very, very fun experience with streaming. Trust me, I've always had a dream of streaming, like live streaming and showing my skills, in League. So it's been very, very fun. I do appreciate all the love and support that people give me. It makes me happy and it keeps me motivated to keep on going. So like I said, please take the time, visit my Twitch channel and give me a follow. And also I have a little schedule of when I'll be on throughout the week. So if you want to ever see if you ever want to check and see whenever I'm going to be live, you can just stay tuned with the schedule. And, be sure to pay a visit during the times that I'm supposed to be on. So, yes, that is a little information about me. Now, let's go on to what Camille is. Now, Camille is a wonderful champion. She is just, I don't know how to express it enough, but she is just very, very, as far as, her kit and her play style, she is very, very precise. Precision is the number one thing you have to think about when you're playing Camille. Precision. That's what you need. And as you can see, the difficulty with Camille is at 3, which means she is not beginner friendly at all. This is somebody that you need to have a brain with to know how to play. Trust me. Fun fact, I started playing Camille in season 7, and I started one-tricking Camille in season 8. I started in silver, I believe it was either 4 or 3 in season 8. And by one-tricking Camille, I was able to solo carry myself all the way to diamond. No lie, I was able to carry myself that far. That goes to show just how far I've came over the years, because over the years, I have suffered from low elo. Yes, I used to be somebody that was down in the very slums of bronze 5. So I've been at the very lowest before they even made iron. I was always at the lowest for a long time. For about a few years, I was down in the low elo between bronze and silver. And then I was able to grind up to gold, which I felt like would be a nice little, I felt like it was going to be a big difference, but turns out it doesn't really, gold is kind of like middle elo or something. So it really wasn't much of a difference. You still suffer from your bronze and silver players and such. So it was but one-tricking Camille really showed that this champ is so amazing to where you can really solo carry yourself all the way up the ranks. And given the fact that Camille is a difficult champ to learn, it also is even more impressive because not a lot of people really play as her, because there's a lot of champs out there that pretty much can perform a lot better than her, because this is what I'm going to discuss later in her pros and cons too, which Camille is a champ that you can't afford to make mistakes with. You can't afford to make any kind of mistakes with her. You have to be precise. You have to make sure that you don't fall behind, because if you fall behind, or if somebody gets a kill on you, or if you're just losing in CS and losing in lane, trust me, Camille will fall flat on her face. This is what makes Camille so difficult, and this is what makes her so rewarding when you win with her, because a champ that's like that, it's if you can really perform well with her, everybody's gonna praise you. Camille is just that's what makes a Camille so amazing, because she can practically beat anybody in the game if you do well with her. If you know what you're doing, Camille can practically beat anybody. You just have to get past her early game. That's all that it is. You farm good, you might pick up a couple kills, maybe roam a bit too, and then boom, Camille will be able to whoop anybody. So therefore, now let me discuss a little bit about Camille. In this little chapter, we're going to discuss a little bit about her lore, and we're also going to discuss her abilities as well. So essentially, I'm just going to give a little summary about her lore. So instead of just reading the whole thing, what I got from it was pretty much Camille was a spoiled rich kid in Piltover, and her family owned a clan called Clan Pharaohs, which was pretty much an organization that was pretty much a nice little organization that kept everything under control, in a sense. That kept Piltover and Zaun under control and such things. So Camille was the 6th child, and only her and her brother was the only survivors to their adulthood life. So I guess Plot took out the rest of her siblings for some reason, and those two were naturally going to be the two that were going to follow on the family tradition. Now, her father, Camille's father, Camille and her father ended up being ambushed by some thugs from Zaun, and Camille survived. She was wounded. She survived, but her father did not. And then essentially her mother ended up passing away after all the grief, of course, with dealing with the loss of with her husband and such things. So now, of course, it's only Camille and her brother. So of course, them two are supposed to take on the family tradition. Her brother, of course, was promoted up to the ranks to be able to do that, and Camille wanted. Of course, Camille was about to as well. However, she ended up having an affair with somebody, and essentially, her having the affair was, of course, started kind of like swaying her from following the family tradition and fulfilling her duties for her father. So her brother, of course, felt like he was going to be, he was going to be the reason why she wouldn't go through with everything. So essentially, her brother ended up recreating the scene that happened where he was making it seem like he was ambushed by thugs. That way, it could motivate Camille to go through this augmentation to become the lady that she is now. Because literally, if it wasn't for that, then she wouldn't have gone through with it. She would have hesitated, and she would have ended up being swayed by the love of her life to not go through it, because the augmentation required her to lose her heart, which meant they had to take out her actual heart and put a mechanicalized heart in there. That way, that's what makes her the cold-blooded person that she is now. She is literally a human killing machine, and that's what makes it so crazy. Like the background that had, her storyline as to how she would have to as to what made everything transpire. She was motivated by her family, by the death of her family, to pretty much become the woman that she is now. That way she could fulfill her father's duties, continue the family tradition, and be able to have no feelings, no remorse for anybody. So yeah, that's what makes Camille very, very sinister in terms of her personality wise. But also, another way to look at it as, think of Camille like Azula from Avatar. That's like a good comparison that I can come up with, right? If all that was too much for him. So yes, she is like a prodigy. She's very precise, and very, very deadly. So yes, that is Camille in a nutshell to me. So, in other words, now, like I said, everybody has their own opinions on how they want to go about Camille and what they believe how she should be, and what should be done with her. So this is just me explaining from my own experience of me playing Camille, and maybe helping other people out and giving some additional information if people didn't know certain things. So, discussing her abilities now. Her passive. This is very important when it comes to trading. Basic attacks on champions grant a shield equal to 20% of Camille's maximum health against their damage type, whether it's physical or magical, for a brief duration, which I believe is about 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds, if I don't recall. Maybe I have to look it up again. But yes, this is very important when it comes to trading with people. This is very good because when you initiate a trade with somebody, you already proc the shield once you auto attack them. So therefore, if you jump in with a hook, if you jump in or try to trade with somebody, make sure that that's up. Make sure that that's up. That way, when they retaliate against you, you can pretty much block a nice little chunk amount of their damage. Some players though might be very smart though. Some players might be very smart and actually wait for the shield to go down before they actually trade with you. So you also got to be very, very mindful of that. If you don't see them fighting or don't see them engaging against you, then you might as well back away, because what Camille suffers from is that she's very, very squishy. She is not a durable champ. She's not somebody that stands. She's not somebody that's that is supposed to stand toe to toe with somebody. She's somebody that pretty much goes in, does the damage, and gets out. That's essentially what Camille is. She's not somebody that just stands toe-to-toe trying to box the person all day. No, she's not good for extended trades. So you have to be sure when you trade with people, make sure to passive up so you can minimize the damage that's dealt to you as much as possible. Now Q, her Q. This is the ability that I had no idea worked, or I had no idea how to operate when I started playing Camille for the first few times. It was because I was constantly pressing the Q, just spamming it, thinking that, it's just it just enhances our auto attack. However, this is why you need to read, because it takes a brain to be able to really pull off some stuff with her. So, because I didn't read on her abilities, I didn't know what her second part of her Q did. So, when I read it, it says Camille's next damage deals bonus damage and grants bonus movement speed. This spell can be recast for a short period of time, doing significant increased bonus damage if Camille delays a period of time between the two attacks, which meant I have never heard of a champ that actually delays like their ability. Well, there's champs that, you know, you do delay abilities and such, but with Camille, in the middle of a fight, it's like you hit your Q and then you wait like a good like about 2 seconds, and then your Q becomes empowered with true damage. And I'm like, what? Whoa, this is incredible, because realizing the damage that this Q can do, I'm like mind blown. Like, this ability is OP. This ability is way too OP for its own good, because man, the fact that it's a big little spike damage, it does true damage, which means anybody that builds any kind of armor, it just completely ignores it. Like, what? That ability is like my most favorite ability with Camille, and I believe, and I want to say that it's my most favorite ability out of all champs in the game. It actually, you know, it's funny part. This ability actually ties with Olaf's E, his reckless swing, because it's true damage too. I love true damage, so this is what makes me really appreciate Camille so much, because of the true damage that she has, and it also gives movement speed as well. So, in terms of trading, be very, very mindful of the Q. You have to be sure you don't sit there and want to go up to somebody and just try to spam Qs all the time. You want to be sure you wait in between those Qs, because that's how you maximize the amount of damage that she does. You just wait. You could proc the Q, but just wait a second and then go right back in and hit the Q once again. So yes, that is one of my favorite abilities with Camille, in a sense. So her W, tactical sweep. Camille blasts in the cone after a delay, dealing damage. Enemies in the outer half are slowed and take extra damage while also healing Camille. Now, another fun fact, when she was released, this ability right here was stupidly OP, they said. And I'm actually sad to say that I didn't play Camille when she was released. So she's one of the champs that I kind of just didn't even pay attention to. So I didn't know just how OP that she really was during her release than I know now. Finding out that her W damage was literally like the most, like, it was like so damaging, and the heal that she got from it too, they had to nerf that ability to the ground. They had to nerf that like literally to the ground, to where now it's just considered a disengage ability now. Literally, it's just a gauge. This is the ability where you poke, you know, you apply a nice little slow with them, and it also applies some nice little sustain to you. But compared to what it was when she was post-released, this ability was too insanely OP for its own good. So unfortunately they nerfed it, so I can't really talk about exactly what it did or how OP it really was, but from what I saw from her pre-game, like, you know, when she was released, it was really, really stupidly OP. So yes, this ability, I don't recommend maxing that at all. Sometimes you might be able to, sometimes you should, depending on who you're going against. With Camille, that's another thing I'm sorry that I need to explain. Camille, the abilities that you max out and the runes that you choose, it's very, very matchup dependent. There are so many matchups in the game where it's like going one keystone or maxing one ability all the time, it's just not always going to cut it. Trust me, maxing one ability every time is not always going to cut it. Sometimes you have to resort to maxing something else. Sometimes you have to resort to going to a different keystone just to fit the playstyle with the lane that you're going against, you know? Sometimes it's best to swap between different keystones and maxing different abilities, because not every champ, you can't do that with every single champ. You can't go certain keystones with you can't go the same keystones against every single champ. In my opinion, this is my opinion. You can't go the same keystones against every single champ, because it kind of makes it difficult for you sometimes, depending on the keystone. A certain keystone can make it difficult for you to deal with somebody in lane, or to fight with somebody, or to trade with somebody, because this keystone is essentially not really going to work against the champ that you're going against, because their playstyle or their kit, sometimes their kit could be much better than that keystone. You know what I'm saying? Or it can pretty much not affect them in the way that you would think. So that's essentially why I say it's very, very matchup dependent on what you max up and what keystone you go. Now, looking at her hook shot, Camille pulls herself to a wall, leaping off and knocking up enemy champions upon landing. This was also another ability that I had no idea how to properly use when I was playing her, because of course I didn't read on her abilities, so I didn't know that in order to only use this ability, you had to always aim at the wall. Hence why it's called a hook shot. You know, the funny part was when I first played Camille, I thought hook shot was you target the enemy champion and then you jump to him or something, or you leap to him. So that's what I thought hook shot was for a second. But then I'm like, wait a second. Oh, you have to leap to the wall. So this is how Camille is mobile, just by targeting the walls. So this is what makes her. This is her only ability that makes her mobile. The only ability in her kit that makes her mobile. So this is where the big brain has to come into play, because this is her only escape. The only ability that she has to initiate a trade with people. Well, the only ability that she has to engage. And the only ability that she has to really disengage, like escape wise. So when you use this ability, just know that your survivability is on the line when this is on cooldown. It's always on the line every time this is on cooldown, because if you miss it, if you miss your hook shot, like if you miss hitting the wall, if you miss hitting somebody, or if you get knocked out of it or get stunned in the middle of it, you could either die, well, you could either lose a trade, or you can die. It's just that simple, because that's her only escape. A lot of people that I play against now, they wait for me to use that, and they go all in on me. There's certain champs that I go against, like Riven, for instance. Rivens, of course, they wait for you to use that hook shot. That way, they can go all the way in on you. All the way in. And it also depends on your positioning in lane as well. If you're way too pushed up and then you start to use your hook shot to try and engage on her, if you're all the way at her tower and she has ult and you have no hook shot, she's gonna run you down. It depends on pretty much how fed you are, and it depends on what you have built up. If you have a solid defense, then you'll most likely escape and be able to survive. But if you're very squishy, or if she knows that she can pretty much like take you down all the way, then you best believe you best regret ever using hook shot like that, because it's a very using hook shot is very detrimental to your survival. Trust me, it's very, because like I said, if anybody's watched me on the stream, you've seen me miss my hook shots. You've seen me get caught in the middle of hook shots and such with stuns and roots. And yes, I have died plentiful of times from that. And trust me, you will most likely die too if you don't properly use this ability right. Understood? So yes, this hook shot, this ability is very important when it comes to playing Camille, because if you miss it, you're dead. If you hit it, then you can really engage on a trade well, and you can most likely kill somebody. This is the hook. This is also the ability that determines whether she kills somebody or whether she does a good trade on somebody too. So if you hit it, most likely you can pull something off from hitting it. So yes, that's a very important ability. Understood? Okay. Her ult, the Hextech Ultimatum. Camille dashes to a target champ, anchoring them to the area. She also deals bonus magic damage to the target with her basic attacks. So this is essentially, if you remember what let me see. This is essentially like a Lissandra ult, in a sense, where it traps them. And this allows Camille to pretty much like, it's like a dueling ability where you trap them in there, and you pretty much, this is very good for team fights. My bad, I'm sorry, I keep skipping over. It's a dueling, it's good for dueling because it does extra bonus damage to them, and also does a bonus damage percentage. I think it does a percentage of their missing health or their current health. So yes, it's very good in terms of dueling. It's also very important to it's also very how do I describe it? This ability is very this helps you dodge a lot of things. Like hookshot can help you dodge skill shots and such things and dodge abilities, but her ult, because she goes untargetable. She's untargetable when she casts it. So in that animation, when she's untargetable, you can dodge, like you can counter any kind of CC. You can counter a stun. You can actually dodge an auto attack from that. You can dodge an auto attack. You can counter any kind of CC. You can pretty much you can avoid a whole bunch of stuff. Like that's essentially what it really is. So you can use that on a very defensive. You can use that very defensively by, you know, saving your own self. You can also use that for catching somebody in a team fight, which can very turn a whole fight around. This is also good for focusing on the AD carries, focusing on their carries, and overall, it's a very nice little ability. However, the problem with this ability is that it doesn't really do much but just trap them and keep them in place. While you can still move out of it. I'm sorry, I forgot to even mention, they can't leave the ult. They can't leave until you leave it. If you leave it, that's when the ult cancels. But everybody else there, when you catch somebody in it, they can't leave. They can't flash out of it. But I swear, I don't know if I'm like correct on this, but I think they can flash inside of it. I don't know. Does it lock? Somebody needs to correct me on that if I'm wrong. But I swear I've seen people flash inside of it. But like not flash out of it, but just flash a short distance like away from me. You know? So I don't know. Can you still use your summoners when you're caught in it? But I don't know. But yes, her ult is a game changer ult as well. So you gotta be very, very mindful of when you use that, and also using that to dodge any kind of CC that's coming against you, and it can really save your life as well. This is also like a secondary tool whenever you miss hookshot as well, to kind of like escape or to kind of dodge some stuff. So yes, that's very, very important. So yes, now I will discuss the pros and cons of Camille. I'm sorry. Now moving on to yes, pros and cons with Camille. The pros with Camille is that she is an excellent split pusher. She is a excellent carry. She is very mobile with one hook shot, of course, but hook shot you can be very, very mobile with that ability. What's another thing? I'm sorry. She does true damage, of course. True damage is like one of the greatest things in League. It's another thing. She can solo carry a game. Trust me, I've solo carried plentiful amount of games with Camille. And another thing, she's a great duelist. She is a really, really good duelist. Once she gets her items, once she gets her main spike, she's a very, very good duelist. Very, very good. So that's as far as the pros that I get from her. Her cons, though. Her cons, she is naturally squishy. Naturally, she is squishy. She is somebody, like I said, you cannot stand toe-to-toe with a lot of people. You have to be sure that you be very quick on the trades and you be able to escape as soon as possible before people can retaliate and before people can try to kill you. So she's very, very squishy. She is only mobile with one ability. Like I said, hookshot is the only ability that makes her mobile. When hookshot is down, she is completely vulnerable. She cannot escape until hookshot is up. So if somebody takes smooth advantage of that, you're gonna have a hard time in lane. She's a very, very bad farmer. Very bad farmer. She has hardly any wave clear other than her W. Other than having her W, and other than if you build Tiamat too. Tiamat does help with wave clear with her. However, naturally she's a very bad farmer. So there's a lot of people that of course that you might go against that have a lot better farm potential. And another thing is that she has a very, very weak early game. Her early game is super weak. Very weak. One of the worst early games in the game. And I'm not even lying to you. There are so many champs that play better early game, have an early game lead, even have a better level 1 lead than her. You know what I'm saying? So she is very, very hard for her in the early lane. That's why a lot of people tend to try and abuse that, because she is somebody that you can't afford to make a mistake with. She is somebody that suffers from, if she's behind in CS, if she gets killed, or if she's just doing very, very rough if she's having a hard time in lane, if her laner is ahead of her, if they got a kill, or if they're able to snowball against her, then Camille will fall flat on her face. Camille will be next to useless. When I say next to useless, I'm not kidding. If anybody that's watched my stream, you've seen me when I fall short, when I miss like a hook shot and it costs me my life, or if I fall behind in CS, or if I suffer from going against somebody that's actually got a way better early game than me. You can see that Camille being behind is very, very, very tough for her to get caught up. because your laner is going to be able to snowball or pretty much be able to keep their lead ahead from you. And if it's somebody like Renekton or Riven or Jax or like Fiora, Irelia, then you know that you're going to have an even harder time because they're naturally going to scale better than you for late game. Renekton is going to scale early game very fast, but if he has kills on you, or if he has kills, he's going to be able to snowball to the point where it's not even possible to 1v1 him. You know, once you're far behind with Camille, you can't even beat anybody because she's so far behind. She doesn't have her item spike, and once you even get your item spike, your laner is already going to have theirs, and they're already going to have more items on top of that. So you're not even going to be able to fight with them, no matter, you know, by the time you even get to like Triforce or something. You're not even going to be able to fight yet because they're already going to be able to pretty much outscale you because you're so far behind. That's why I say Camille is not, it's not easy for people to pick up Camille, because when you pick up this champ, you can't afford to make any mistakes with her. You have to be precise. You have to make sure that you're very, very, very precise on what you do as far as trading and as far as escaping and as far as being precise on farm and knowing when and when not to fight. That is the biggest thing with Camille. So she is very, 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 you have to be very precise. I can't express that enough because it's so true. Like, you can't afford to make any mistakes with her because you'll be next to useless in the lane. So yes, that is as far as the description about Camille. That's what I feel as though what I believe Camille to be like in a nutshell. So that's just what I believe. So now I'm going to move over to the rune choices. This is my rune choices, okay? My rune choices. Everybody else's is different, I'm sure of it, but this is what I choose, okay? So if you don't agree with it, if you don't like it, or feel as though it's something that you don't feel like works with her, by all means, I understand. That's you and that's your playstyle. But if you want to learn more about what I do with these runes, then feel free to stick around and I'm gonna discuss that right here. So the first rune page that I'm going with right here, I call it the Superior Q. This is my Grasp of the Undying rune page. This is the one keystone that everybody questions me on so much. They ask me, why do you go Grasp of the Undying and not press the attack or conquer? Let me explain that right now. Grasp of the Undying is very, very good in terms of laning phase, because since Camille has a weak early game, the Resolve rune page helps with that. Understand? The Resolve rune page really helps with her early game struggle, because with her being very, very squishy and her early game being very weak, the Resolve rune and Grasp really helps with trading a lot better. Now I'm gonna give you a little insight on this whole thing too. Grasp of the Undying combined with Shield Bash, combined with Sheen or Triforce, and if you max Q with this keystone, you can be able to pull off nice trades with people with just one hit from your Q. You won't even need the hook shot in and just be able to fight with somebody. You can actually pull off a nice trade with somebody with just one hit from your Q. And that's by proccing Grasp and proccing Shield Bash and Sheen. I usually go Sheen as soon as possible when I go Grasping and Undying, because I want to maximize my Q damage as well as maximize the damage with on top of Grasp and Shield Bash. So yes, that's why I go Grasp and the Undying. It really helps with that. And as well, her passive also, like I said, if you saw earlier, her passive scales with her health. So the more health you have, the bigger the shield that you get. So combine Grasp, which gives you an extra 5. This gives you extra 5 health. It also heals you for 2% of your max health. And of course, it deals bonus damage equal to 4% of your max health. So combine the passive increase gain from Grasp, and also I personally use Overgrowth. I like to use Overgrowth because it also scales, gives her extra health. So if you combine Grasp with Overgrowth, trust me, you'll have about an extra, maybe like 200, maybe 300%, maybe 300 HP by late game. And of course, with Overgrowth, once you absorb 102 monsters and enemy minions and such, you can gain an additional 3.5% max health. You also gain, you permanently gain 3 health each every 8 minions. So essentially, it's like Scion in a sense, where you kind of gain health as the minions die, you know. So yes, this what helps her become more durable, because that's what the resolve rune page is meant for, to be more durable. So that's why I like it. Now for the secondaries, it varies on the matchup. Like I said, with Camille, she's very matchup dependent. The keystones and the item builds and the max and the abilities, very matchup dependent. I personally, sometimes I go absolute focus on sorcery and gathering storm, since this helps with the scaling AD with her. This helps scaling AD. That way you don't really have to focus on building too much attack damage anymore, since you got gathering storm. So you can just focus on building some extra health and being extra tanky. That way you won't get blown up in like team fights, and you'll be able to really like run down on the carries because you're so tanky to where nobody can really burst you down in time, you know. So that's one way I do that. Absolute focus for the extra damage when you're above 70% health. You can also switch between the adaptive force to give an extra damage. You can also give I usually go for the extra health, so I can actually scale. So that really helps with you know, her passive shielding, as well as doing more damage with grasp. You also got to keep in mind that the more health you have, the more that you heal with grasp, and the more damage that you deal with it too. So more health is really good, makes her more durable, and you actually do a bit more damage with the grasp as well. So yes, you can also switch between domination. I usually go taste for blood. Depends on if I need more it depends on if I need more sustain, because Camille lacks sustain. Remember that she doesn't have any kind of sustain except from her W. So if you get something like taste for blood or ravenous hunter, that helps with her sustain a lot more. And of course, you can also switch out conditioning for bone plate, or you can use second wind. I personally like using conditioning or bone plate, because conditioning is good for late game you know, armor and magic resist, as well as bone plate. That's if I'm going against somebody that I know I'm probably going to trade often with. So bone plate really helps with that, minimizing their amount of damage that they deal. You know what I'm saying? Second wind is good if I need some sustain. Like if somebody damages me, I can recover a nice amount of, it says about what? Heal for 4% of your missing health plus 6 over 10 seconds. Combine that with Duran's shield, and you have a nice little sustain. So after you leave a fight, after you leave a trade, you get a nice amount of health back. You know, nice little recover from that. So that's why I go that on some occasion. Second wind is also really good for against people that poke you a lot as well. So keep in mind of that. You can also switch to precision with grasp as well. Sometimes I go precision because I want to go for bloodline for lifesteal. If I'm going against somebody that's like a duelist, like Fiora, maybe Jax or Irelia, going lifesteal is very good in terms of being able to trade with them and being able to sustain off minions. That way you can stay in the lane longer, because some champs that you go against would naturally have some built-in lifesteal sustain. Your only sustain will come from your W, but they can pretty much, like, they can either dodge it or they can pretty much engage on you the moment that you do that, because you're really vulnerable when you cast your W. I forgot to mention that. When you cast your W, you kind of leave yourself open to be engaged on, because you have to wait for the animation to be done before you can really do anything else. So an actual trick that I'm going to show in the next episode, as far as the mechanics, I'm going to show you how you can use your hook shots on top of your other abilities. So the next episode, stay tuned for that, because there's going to be some nice little tricks I'm gonna show with her. But I'm just gonna discuss the runes and her little background, her abilities and pros and cons is this one right now. You know, just to kind of leave a nice little build up for the next one. So yes, this is what I would usually go sometimes if I need some sustain, and sometimes I would also switch between attack speed and cooldown reduction, and sometimes I would also switch to extra defense like magic or armor. Just depends on who I'm going against. Everything is matchup dependent. Okay, understand that. Next rune page is Duelist. This is, of course, the average rune page that everybody always suggests that you would go, is the press the attack. So it's really nothing, it's really straightforward. Press the attack, you get Triumph, you can get the extra attack speed from the legend. You can also switch between Tenacity or Bloodline, whatever suits you and whatever you're going against, whatever feel as though you're better with. Coup de Grace, Cut Down isn't really it could be effective when you go against tanks, but you're kind of going to be too squishy, and tanks are going to be stacking up on as much defense as possible, and they're going to be stacking up on health too. So you should be sure to be stacking up on health as well, so that way you don't be blown up, or you can survive a little bit longer when it comes to fighting them, because tanks can pretty much are very good at extended trades, and you don't want to extend any trades with tanks. So this is why I don't really go with cut down like that. You can also go with last stand. Last stand, it comes in handy sometimes if you're going against somebody that has like a hard engage on you, and you want to be able to counter engage with them as soon as possible. And if they got you low, then you deal more damage in a sense, but the damage isn't really that noticeable. I don't really notice the damage is difference between Coup de Grace and Last Stand, so I kind of just brush these off and I just go with Coup de Grace in my defense. Resolve Rune for secondary. If you feel like you need some extra defense, you can go sorcery, get some extra AD if you need it, or you can go Domination for some extra, maybe some sustain from Taste from Blood or whatever. Like I said, whatever fits you. That's what I go with when it comes to Keystones. Whatever fits you better. So yes. Heal drop. Now this is the Arcane Comment one. Now we all know that the Arcane Comment and the W poke was very infamous in her early stages of her release. So once they nerfed that, that's when it pretty much just became really weaker. But however, it's not as weak as you might think though, because max and W, I max W on certain occasions when I'm going against somebody that's pretty much poking me all the time, like Pantheon, or going against a Teemo, maybe like a Vayne top or a Quinn or somebody. But using Arcane Comment and max and W does significantly increase the poke damage that you deal to squishies. So I usually like this against various squishy people, and I feel like poking them is the best thing that I want to do, because some people might not be easy to initiate trades on, because some people can counter your hook shot engage. Like somebody can knock you back, like Vayne can condemn you into the wall, the middle of your hook shot. Or if you try to engage on a Teemo can blind you. Sometimes you gotta wait, of course, for the blind to end before you even hook shot on him. But sometimes Teemos might save their blind for when you hook shot. That way you can't even proc your shield off, and he can pretty much deal a nice amount of damage to you before you even do anything. So usually I resort to just maxing W and just poking them out, and then going and pretty much getting them low enough for me to execute them. So that's what I would go Arcane Comment for against people like Gnar as well. I would use that. Nimbus Cloak is is pretty good in terms of when you ult, you get a nice little burst movement speed, which of course helps you escape, or it helps you stay locked on them as well if you don't have your hook shot up. You can also do Mana Flow Band to increase your mana, and if you're going against AP, your Nullifying Orb does come in handy as well. Transcendence, I personally like Transcendence because the extra cooldown reduction it gives when you reach level 10. But the other thing that people don't really pay attention to is the amount of damage that you can get from exceeding the cooldown reduction limit. So once you get past 40% or 45%, if you have Cosmic Insight from Inspiration, then you get a passive increase with AD. So when I go Transcendence, I try my best to build as much items with cooldown reduction as possible. That way I can get more AD from that, which really does come in handy. This also really goes well if you combine that with Gathering Storm too. So you can have a nice little sizable amount of AD. You can also build tank items with cooldown reduction and still have a nice little sizable amount of AD on top of that as well. So that's really interesting to use. Clarity, increase all movement speed for our bonuses are 7% more effective, and you gain 1% movement speed. This is really good with her Q, since her Q grants movement speed, so you can combine that. And that'll give you more speed in terms of getting away or staying locked on somebody. Absolute Focus, like I said, the extra AD when you're above 70% health, you can use that if you feel as though it's best for you. Scorch is really good when it comes to poking, and it also comes in handy because when Scorch goes off, it can also proc Arcane Comment after you use your ability. So if you poke them with so if Arcane Comment isn't up for like a second, but you hit with your W and you have Scorch up, then it will proc the Arcane Comment too, like right in the middle of the damage that it deals. So yes, Scorch does come in handy when it comes to that. Combine that with Corrupt Impulsion, and it does a nice sizable amount of poke damage, and you can keep the pressure on them. Water Walking, I don't use that as much because I'm not in the jungle that often, or I'm not in the lake. Except if you want to fight in the lake, like if you want to go against their jungler, like if you want to catch their jungler in the getting a scuttle or something, or catch the jungler in the lake, then this will actually come in handy because it grants you a nice 25 movement speed and a nice little adaptable damage up to like 18. I guess it's based off level. And so this is all only when you're in the river though. So this is actually good when it comes to like drag fights or Baron fights or catching the jungler in the river. So that could really come in handy. I don't use it that often, only if I'm using clarity or something, and if I want to get extra movement speed. That's what I usually for. And then Gathering Storm, you can pretty much choose if you want to have the scaling AD per 10 minutes. For secondary runes for heal drop or for the Arcane Comment, you can go Inspiration for the increased cooldown for Cosmic Insight. You can go Biscuit Delivery if you need more sustain from lane. Minion Dematerializer, I don't use that at all. Some people might use it. I don't personally need it. Futures Market is really tricky because I love to use this ability, except it puts me at a gold disadvantage. The more you use it, the more gold disadvantage that you're at. So be mindful. You might be able to buy your items sooner than later, but you put yourself at a gold disadvantage, and that pretty much makes you have to work twice as hard to make up for that. So just be very, very careful when you use Futures Market, because I don't use it no more because I don't like being at the gold disadvantage and having to make up for it, especially if my laning phase is so weak in the early game. I can't afford I can't afford having to try extra hard to CS and get kills so I can pretty much get out of the negative gold range and such. So yeah, that's just pretty much for the you can also pretty much decide whether you want to do Domination for the extra damage from the extra damage from Cheap Shot, or Sudden Impact if you're using Hook Shot as well to engage on them. It just varies. Like I said, everything just really varies on the matchup. This is what I use personally, so this is just me speaking for myself. Then you got Unyielding. Unyielding is something that I only use on certain occasions when I go against a team that has a lot of CC. I'm talking about stuns, I'm talking about roots, I'm talking about, you know, all types of stuff that I feel as though I need this to get out of it as soon as possible. And in some cases, I go Aftershock. Even though Hook Shot is her only skill shot ability and her only stun, this is really good in terms of making you more tanky as long as you hit it. So this is another thing that makes Camille's survival more so deadly, is that if you miss the Hook Shot, you'll be vulnerable, and if you also miss the Hook Shot, you can't proc off Aftershock. So therefore, you can't proc off the extra tankiness that you would get, you know, from the extra armor and magic resist that it gets. So this is why Hook Shot is such is an ability that you have to be very careful and precise with landing, because if you miss it, you're screwed. I can't express that enough. So yes, I would go Shield Bash, Conditioning, Unflinching. Unflinching is very underrated. I don't know if people don't use that that often, but when you use a summoner spell, you gain 15% tenacity and a 10% slow. You getting 15% tenacity and slow resist for 10 seconds, which means the moment you use an ability, whether it's flash or teleport, you already have some passive tenacity for a good 10 seconds. And when your summoner spells are on cooldown, you gain an additional 10% tenacity and slow resist as long as they're on cooldown. So combine that's an extra 20% tenacity when both, like if you have flash on cooldown or teleport on cooldown, and if you have precision for secondary and you have legend tenacity, you can have up to total of like 61% tenacity passively. Like once legend tenacity maxes out, you can have up to 61% tenacity, and you can get out of CCs quickly as possible within like a snap of a finger. You can get out of stuns within the snap. You can get out of roots within the snap. You can get out of taunts and fears within the snap. Like it's really good, because it's really also good because it helps you with your hooks. It helps with escaping with Hook Shot. You know, because there's a mechanic I'm gonna show in the next episode of just how you can escape CC. It's how you can escape how your Hook Shot can pretty much negate various CC effects. So stay tuned for that one. I'm gonna show that, but I'm sure you've already seen it throughout my stream, and you probably seen it from other players as well. But I'm gonna also describe on how you can pull it off. If you've never had anybody describe that to you, I'm gonna describe it for you. All right. So yes, and then I will go Triumph. I will also, because I want to be very I'm going on a very defensive build, I'm going to of course go Armor runes and Magic resist runes as well. And actually I'm going to go cooldown for the Hook Shot as well, so I can Hook Shot more often. And I might even max Hook Shot with Aftershock, so I can have my Hook Shot up many times as soon as possible. And then here we go with the last rune page, which a lot of people are going to be very surprised to hear. This is the special circumstance rune page, which I use the infamous glacial augment on Camille. If anybody has seen me on the stream, they would know that there is only certain circumstances that I use glacial augment with. Glacial augment is not a troll with Camille. Trust me, it is not. I have shown that it is not troll on my stream. So there are only a couple people that I use this against, and that's like Garen and like Singed. I used to use this against a lot of people like Fiora, and even Irelia on some occasions, and it does come in handy. However, it doesn't always work out depending on the player or who you're going against, because with glacial augment, you're only using it just so you can keep the enemies at bay, keeping them at a distance and keep them locked down with slows. That way they can't really stay locked in on you. So for instance, if you hook shot on somebody and they know that your hook shot's on cooldown and they try to fully all in on you or try to trade right back with you, glacial augment combined with the slow from your W, they can't catch up to you. You got them slowed down. It's like having frozen mallet. You got them slowed to where they can't really catch up to you to be able to retaliate. So you got to be very, very careful on how you trade with people, because with this, you can't really stay in a fight for far too long. This makes it easy for you to trade with people, but you won't really do as much damage, of course, if you were to go like Conquer or press the attack or something. So yeah, this is only a utility keystone that, you know, I recommend if you really know what you're doing that you try it out. But anybody that's trying to learn Camille and understand how she works, do not go this rune page until you really have her patterned down. So in this, I will go magical footwear. Magical footwear is very risky to use because you have to wait about 12 minutes before you even can buy boots. So not saying boots is real detrimental to her survival, except, you know, her hook shot is the only way for her to be able to deliver. The hook shot only defines if she lives or dies. But not being able to buy boots actually does kind of play a part in this, because you need as much movement speed as possible. And of course, allowing your Q might grant movement speed, but it doesn't grant you that much to be able to like outrun somebody. So, you know, that's very risky to use magical footwear, but I personally like using it just so once I get my boots from this, it gives you the extra 10 movement speed, which does come in handy indeed. So biscuit recovery, approach velocity, which is simply like a phage, like a free phage. Once you apply your slow from your W, or when you apply your slow from glacial augment, this always procs. So very much comes in handy, and it's also good for if your teammates impair somebody, you can catch up to them very fast. So that does come in handy. Clarity, and this is where I also go water walking as well. I pretty much try to maximize on my movement speed, since I got approach velocity and I got the magical footwear, I got clarity, and I got water walking. So, and I got my boots. Sometimes I do go boots of swiftness too, just to make sure I'm super fast as possible. So this is only special circumstances. Very special circumstance. Only use this against certain people. I don't recommend anybody try this unless you know exactly what you're doing. So yes, this is my whole rune guide to Camille. This is my whole rune page is what I use for Camille. And I did forget to discuss whether you should go press the attack or conquer. Press the attack is like the generic rune page for Camille, but conquer, of course, given the buff that conquer receive, given the fact that it grants extra AD per stack, which can come very handy when it comes to trading with her. So it's pretty much between whether it fits your playstyle more, conquer or press the attack. I do go lethal tempo on certain occasions as well. However, since you're already, if you max E, then you pretty much won't really need it, since you got the attack speed steroid boost from the E. I forgot to mention that too when I was discussing the abilities. Yes, your E does grant a crazy amount of attack speed boost, especially when you max it as well. Fleet of footwork, I don't recommend it that often. It's like a weaker version of grasp, but it gives you more movement speed. So I just go with the grasp and the Undying. That's just my personal preference. You know what I'm saying? So press the attack or conquer, maybe lethal tempo if you want to try it out, and maybe fleet of footwork. That's if you want to try it out for real. Now, let me discuss the other rune pages. I'm sorry. Domination. This is for when she was a jungler. When she used to be a jungler, you would go Electrocute from what I heard. Pretty much to maximize the damage that you would do from her ganks, which would come in handy. It'll be nice little burst ganks. Now, she used to be a very, very strong jungler because at one point her E would stun minions. Her E would stun minions, so it would it would pretty much help with her clearing. Now, Riot decided they wanted to nerf that E and pretty much remove the stun from minions and even monsters. So now, since she can't stun minions and she can't really clear fast as she used to, her jungler capabilities is now just very, very weakened to where she's not a jungler no more. Now, I don't jungle with her at all. Even before, I jungled with her, but I'm not a jungler. I don't like jungle. I really despise it. It's not my best role at all. It's one of my worst roles. So I never tried jungle with her like that. I tried a couple times, and she's pretty much a jungler that relies on ganking, doing the level 2 ganks and such things, and pretty much snowballing from that. That's essentially the jungler that she is. But I'm not really much of a jungler, so jungler doesn't work out for me. They even nerfed her E because they wanted her to be more in the top lane, because her jungler was so dominant at one point because of her because of her clearing and because of her ganking potential, to where they wanted to nerf that to stop that. So I was surprised, like, wow, can't believe that. But yes, you would usually go Electrocute from what I've seen for jungle, and Predator, which doesn't really, I don't look at Predator like something that you would use because she's already mobile. She already has a movement speed from her Q, and she already has, like, you know, her hook shot to engage in. So it's like, what would you need to go Predator for? What exactly would you need to really go there for? You know what I'm saying? She's already mobile. You don't really need it, and it doesn't even come in handy, especially when it's on cooldown. So it's like, I feel like it's not fit for her. Dark Harvest, you could get Dark Harvest even for lane too, but I mean, that's only, of course, if you're able to get them low and pretty much do some really good damage to them. But that's, of course, that's if you stack it up. If you don't have enough stacks for it, it just becomes really weak and useless to me. But it's also good for team fights as well, since it does increase the damage, and it does cooldown. It does reset the cooldown of it on takedowns too. So you could try it out if you want. Hail of Blades, it's just like it's a much quicker version to Lethal Tempo, since it's very quick to apply. As soon as you're out of combat, your next 3 attacks got 110% attack speed. But since she has attack speed from her E, it's like you don't really notice. It's a nice little burst trade for real. It's a burst trade, but it's not really worth it in my opinion to really get. The whole Domination rune pages is not even fit for Camille. So I don't even try going for that. I don't even try going for any of this stuff. So I recommend don't even try and go any keystone for Domination. Always keep the Domination rune page secondary. Always. Other abilities, Ari, however you pronounce it, don't recommend that at all. Don't even try it. It's not even worth it. Arcane Comment is much better if you're in terms of poking people, and Phase Rush, it's fairly effective. It's also very good at certain matchups as well, in case you want to quickly get out of a trade before they react to you, because sometimes people can keep you in fights, such as like people like Darius or people like Volibear or tanks that can pretty much CC you before you can even like get away from them. So Phase Rush does help with quickly getting away with people that you don't want to extend any trades with. So that's as good as far as escaping wise, and also good with helping against people like Nasus as well with his Wither. If you can proc the Phase Rush when he has his Wither on you, you can pretty much completely counter that and get away from him. So that's one way you can use Phase Rush in a way. So, any other things? Let's see. What else are we touching on? Guardian. You're not a support with Camille, so don't even go Guardian. And Kleptomancy. Some people go Kleptomancy. You can go Kleptomancy if you really want to try something new with her. I never went Kleptomancy. I never tried. I never bothered, so I figured it's not even worth it for real, in terms of, I just prefer Glacial Augment over it anyway. I might try Kleptomancy maybe once, maybe to see how it affects, because I never used this keystone before, so I gotta actually might just see how it works in in game for me. And Unsealed Spellbook, don't even bother. I don't even recommend not even trying to use this at all. So this is my rune pages for Camille. This is my guide to her. This is my first episode. I do thank you all for tuning in. I hope that I do hope that you guys have learned something from the stuff that I described. I'm sorry, my language and me talking, I'm a little, not really nervous, but I kind of gotta get used to stuff like this, you know, the talking and making videos and such things. So please excuse if I've, you know, like kind of have a little hard time talking sometimes. So yes, this is my little episode. This is my first episode to my guide with how I play Camille. Please stay tuned for the next episode, as I will be discussing her mechanics. I will be discussing item builds, and I will also be discussing the champion difficulty, her champion difficulties. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. Please stay tuned for the next episode. Please tune in to my Twitch channel down below, twitch.tv/StephJMillz. Always tune in, check the schedule, see whenever you want to catch me live. And if you ever want to see my ranks, of course, also pay down. Click the link to op.gg to see if you think I'm lying about being rank 3 Camille. So thank you all for tuning in. Please be safe, stay tuned, and be blessed, and stay tuned for the next episode, guys. I'm out.